Beyond Reach podcast gives the voice to brands, athletes, organizations in the outdoor space industry. Through open conversation, you're going to discover their stories, their successes and challenges, but also their vision. Welcome to the podcast. Hi and welcome on the podcast, Mike. So I just want to let you introduce yourself as you're working for AWA. So I'd just like you to know a bit about yourself, about your past, and introduce what is AWA, what it stands for, and jump into the conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Maxime. My name is Mike Holroyd. I'm the executive director for the Alberta Whitewater Association. It's a lot of questions there, but I guess I was a kayak athlete for quite a lot of years, 10 years on the national team, and then transitioned into coaching for 15 years, and now I've been in this position for about 3 years with the AWA.
Okay, and so from your past, what did make you shift from being an athlete to becoming a coach? Is it because you were done with your athlete competitions, or?
Yeah, I guess I was still racing, but I had a cool opportunity, I guess, to come back to Alberta. I'd been in BC and then Ontario briefly, and I just had this opportunity to come back and kind of give back to the community where I started. And the club format that we have in Alberta and the setup here with the facilities and everything just led me back to, I guess, this path where I was just really excited to get back and help out athletes in that.
And so jumping on that opportunity of like helping athletes, how did you, or maybe are you still coaching? How are you helping the athletes?
So I mean, over the 15 years where I was coaching, I guess officially, we had lots of athletes go on to junior national teams and national teams. We had one athlete, Haley Daniels. She made it to the Olympics in 2021. So that's kind of like, I guess that's the pinnacle of any, coach's career. But we had some just fantastic athletes all the way through. And it was just, it was a lot of fun. Funny enough, now that I've transitioned out of coaching, now my kids are paddling lots. So I'm sort of unofficially coaching them and some of their friends along with their proper coaches. So it's not that I've completely left, but definitely a different role now.
So did you go to the Olympics with your athlete?
Only virtually.
Okay.
I was coaching from the sidelines through Zoom and whatnot.
Okay, and why that? Why?
There was 2 coaches from Canada that were allowed, and there was four athletes from different areas, and so the 2 national team coaches went. So I got to watch lots of clips of what was going on, and then give some feedback here and there.
That must be hard to coach from a distance when you don't see the athlete in front of you. So it's pretty. I suppose pretty hard.
I mean, I guess not being able to walk the course and see the river up close, makes a difference. Obviously, the experience wasn't there, but that's okay. I think what I was able to provide was that sort of comfort and sense that somebody's got their back. So I think Haley appreciated that anyway.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's talk a little bit now about AWA and not AWA. Don't say AWA. I've been saying that. It's not the right way. It's AWA. So yeah, let's talk maybe about this association and why did it start, when did it started, and how did you get involved into it?
Yeah, so AWA, I guess, officially started in 1972. And so obviously before me, there's been a whole bunch of fantastic people that have kind of set the framework. And the way I see it, it's really the collective of all the clubs. And we're just there to like kind of support them, try and encourage them to keep teaching people to kayak and canoe and sup and whatever else to just enjoy the river. And I think a lot of our clubs and a lot of the people that get into kayaking, they start off in the pool, they start off on a lake. I would bet that only 30% of them ever make it to a river. So it's really a pretty broad scope of all water resources in Alberta.
That's impressive. And so, what kind of discipline do they do, like in AWA? Because I suppose like kayak on the river could be crazy rivers, could be calm rivers, could be on the lake, could be, and the same applies for any other water sports with that. So, what kind of discipline?
Yeah, so there's obviously we've got like tons of recreational paddlers. I would say the majority of our clubs are recreational paddlers. People just wanting to get out on rivers, lakes, whatever, and enjoy nature.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the competitive stuff, we have I guess starting in the pool, we have canoe polo.
Okay.
So you've got two teams and basically like water polo, but in boats. It's super exciting. Great winter activity. Just keep fit all year in the boat. And then we've had lots of athletes go on to world championships in that. And then we've got slalom, which is the Olympic discipline, and now kayak cross, which is a new Olympic discipline for next year. And we've had fantastic results. We had a world champion, David Ford, in 1999. He also went to 5 Olympics. We had Haley, like I mentioned, that went to an Olympics, and Roy Sharplin, who went to a couple Olympics. So we've got some good experience on the slalom side, and now, like I said, kayak cross. So it's like uh, ski cross or whatever. So you've got 4 people at a time that go down the river, start on a big ramp, drop into the river, and try not to knock each other out on the way down, kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's bringing a lot of excitement and a new discipline to the sport. And then we've got freestyle kayaking, where you use the waves and hole features,
Okay.
and you've got short boats, and you're doing flips and cartwheels and basically any axis spinning moves. And if you've got a big enough wave, you can actually bounce and do moves in the air.
Okay.
Um, and then we have some downriver racing where you're just racing in a straight line, and in big long boats, or creek racing where you're in more of a creek boat on crazy whitewater. So lots of different competitive opportunities.
Okay. And so how so you're saying that you're helping a club, but if I'm and that's my case, I'm totally new to that. I don't know anything about it. What would you recommend to a newbie?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the ideal pathway is, start in a pool where it's nice and warm, get a bunch of time, paddling around, learning how to get comfortable in and out of the boat so you can flip
Yeah.
over and get out of the boat when you need to. Work on your roll so that you don't have to get out of your boat.
Yeah.
But it's just really about that like comfort level. And so we've been doing some really cool stuff with kids lately where, getting them to do a lot of breath holding so that if they do flip over, uh, they're comfortable, just taking, if their first roll doesn't work, they can practice a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of pool environment is perfect for that. And then progressing onto a lake or somewhere where you can spend a bit more time, a bit more space to paddle around, and like, kind of dial in those strokes. And then, yeah, moving on to, if you want to get onto the river, then you start on easy moving water, learning how eddy lines work. Because if you don't know how they work, they'll just flip you over.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, kind of wherever you want to go with it, right? There's some people that do waterfalls, that's cool for some people, but not everybody's
Yeah,
into
that's
that, and that's totally fine. And so, if your jam is going out on the Bow River or the North Saskatchewan River and just, either floating down or practicing things,
mm.
um, then that's awesome.
And what's the who's the youngest? What's the age? What's the best age to start? Like, can I start at like 3, 5, 7? And what's the oldest age also?
There's definitely parents like myself, of paddlers who are subject their kids to paddling when they're 2 or 3 years old. We were looking through some videos the other night.
Yeah.
But I would say in general, like, probably 8 plus or minus is the ideal time to just like get started, get comfortable with the boat so that it's not something that, is scary. You'll hear lots of adults say, oh, it's scary because I'm stuck inside this boat and stuff.
Yeah.
Kids don't really have that feeling as long as you introduce it as like a pool toy, right? So you're just like, you're in the pool, you're in and out of it, and you're playing.
Yeah.
Then you just don't have that feeling of ever being trapped. And yeah.
That's fun. Let's talk maybe about AWA mission also, like into festival and events, because that was more like the discurrent side of it, and maybe training, maybe like how do you support those clubs and events to grow and get promoted?
Yeah. So we have, again, because we've got this big network of clubs, anytime there's an event somewhere, we're able to promote that and encourage people to go to it. We do the boring stuff like provide insurance and whatnot, and the ability for the clubs to do guided trips like in parks in Alberta. So we provide all that kind of background stuff that's boring, but yeah, it's really like the clubs like Pincher Creek, Pincher Crow Creekers, or Bow Valley Kayak Club that are putting on like these big festivals with, or the Calgary Kayak Club. We've got 3 or 4 big festivals in Alberta that have, typically 200-300 people that show up at them, and go play in the eastern slopes in the Rockies.
Okay, that's fun. It's the boring stuff, like the insurance you're saying. It's the boring stuff, but and it's a perfect transition on the safety side of it. As you were telling me that you also have like a safety program. So can you talk a bit about it?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, the safety perspective, it starts with our coaches and our instructors and our leaders. So that's our NCCP program, which is the National Coaching Certification Program. And so we have a really strong program in Alberta with some fantastic learning facilitators that go out and they teach the club instructors and leaders. And so there's a ton of safety within that. So if you're in a club environment, that's going to be the safest environment because you've got all these people that are super knowledgeable about river safety and about rescue. And then we've got a swiftwater rescue course that Canoe Kayak Canada puts on, as well as some other swiftwater rescue providers. And so that kind of takes care of our immediate members. But what we've seen, particularly in the last 4 years, and certainly during the pandemic, but even before that, like rivers are just getting way busier, and people are really excited to just go float down the river, but they don't know much about it. And so we've started to see quite a lot of, I would say, preventable deaths, and lots of near misses. And so that led us last year to put in for a Transport Canada grant to work on river safety. And so our goal, and we've teamed up with some fantastic people to make it happen, on Leah, which is an online company up in Edmonton, and AQ Outdoors for the content. But we've teamed up to make an online river safety course for Alberta, and undoubtedly it'll be passed along to other regions. But yeah, we're super excited about that coming online next year. And then we also want to do a bunch of stand-up paddleboard awareness about leashes on rivers. So if you're on a river and you have an ankle leash, you are putting yourself at significant risk. So the message is do not use a leash if you're on a river, because they get caught and then you can't take them off. They're quick release if you're like standing there on dry land and you can pull it off. But as soon as you've got any water pressure on you, you can't reach your ankle, getting dragged, and we've had deaths recently in the last 2 years. So
Yeah.
um, And then Harvey Passage, we're building a PFD lending station. Again, just for the general public, our members don't need a PFD lending station because they all have life jackets. But the idea is just to try and create that culture of safety around our rivers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because rivers, they seem calm, and then the like few days after, you just need some, and it's very dangerous because you can have like some rain in some region, and it could be dry as hell in your region, but all the water is going to come to where you are, and then the river can be very dangerous, even if it doesn't seem dangerous like it.
Yeah, and even when it's slow and quiet, we get lots of people that, have their kids right next to the river, and they're not necessarily aware that, if that kid takes two more steps, they're
Yeah.
going to be on that eddy line and they'll get sucked down,
Yeah.
pushed down the river. And then we've had it lots of times, particularly at Harvey Passage, because we're there a lot and there's a ton of public. We're constantly pulling people out that might not otherwise do well. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like safety is like really like it's just like insurance is something that is like could seem boring, but if you don't do it, you're putting yourself at risk. So you better watch out.
hopefully we can make that fun and
Yeah,
yeah, and then provide that link to our clubs as well. So if people are interested and
yeah.
want to, do more, then we'll have that link.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Like, yeah, please provide that link, and I put that in the description as well. That would be really helpful. Okay. Talking about all like those like trying to make that river a bit more safety. Can you talk maybe about the different developments that we've seen in the last 30-40 years in between the Canada's KISS program to the new program that you were talking about just before off camera. Can we introduce? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we've been really lucky. I think we had some leaders back in the 80s that saw the Kananaskis River, and it's a dam controlled river. So it's kind of on in the summer, it's on all the time, but in shoulder seasons, it's on sort of half the time, or at this time of year, it's on for 2 or 3 hours a day, and then it's literally off just a trickle. And so what it means is that when it's on, we've got a really consistent water flow. And when it's off, at the right time of year with the right rules, you can go in and modify things. So in 1984, Alberta Whitewater Association went in and modified the Kananaskis River and built a slalom course first. And then over the years, about every 5 to 10 years, the organization's gone back in and modified other sections of it. So now we've got about a 5 kilometer stretch between Widowmaker and Canoe Meadows that is just a fantastic place to learn how to kayak and to continue to progress skills. So it's kind of a class 2+ whitewater, and but with enough features that for one, it's safe, it's fairly deep, it's all fairly consistent, but then it also has some nice features where you can learn how to surf and learn how to do freestyle, the slalom course. And so it's just a fantastic place to paddle.
Yeah, trying to regroup like different activities around the river. And talking about this environmental changements, how does like it does like yeah, it does affect like the nature, like the fish and like how the river is going, and depending on the year, it's also like you can get flood maybe from your modifications. So how wide is that spectrum of like?
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately for that river, because they hydro peak, it's a hydro dam, so it's literally off and then it turns back on. Unfortunately, there aren't very many fish in the river. What that allows us to do is to go in. We still have to follow Alberta Water Act rules in terms of sediment and how everything else works, and get approvals there, and because it's within the provincial park, we work with provincial park for that. But ultimately, these projects don't have any net negative effect on the fish, and in some cases have positive effect. So, for instance, in Calgary at Harvey Passage, there was a weir that was there from the early 1900s, which is just a big solid drop, and the fish couldn't get up it. So we essentially had two separate fish populations. And then in 2011, Harvey Passage opened. And so what they've done is it's connected through that weir. So it's not just one big drop, it's a big long series of rapids. So now the fish can pass up and down it. And we see them paddling underneath us all the time, or swimming underneath while we're paddling.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that one would have a net positive effect on the river. And yeah, Harvey Passage, right in Calgary. It's class like 1, 2, like it's a super on the right-hand channel, very approachable.
Yeah.
A fantastic place for kids to learn how to kayak. My kids were in there when they were 5 or 6 years old, and it's this nice pool drop situation. So as long as you've got like PFDs and helmets and shoes, then you can swim down there all day.
Yeah.
And then so that was built in 2011. We had a big flood in 2013 out here.
Okay.
Wiped out a ton of stuff in Calgary and everywhere. And so during the rebuild, we were able to build a slalom course there as well. And so now we have a slalom course so people can train. And it's just really cool. Like any given evening, we've got people training for slalom. There's people practicing freestyle. We've got everybody just paddling and having fun and socializing through the evening. So it's just a really neat like community place where everybody gets together. And then you've got it's right next to the River Valley pathways. You've just got tons of people spectating and hopefully learning more about river safety in the long run and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, that's fun, and you just touched like a point about your mission is also to give access to that knowledge to the broader community, like to the broader audience, which is the whole community around river, which is really important, especially in Canada because you have all that water, so people should be really aware about it. There is another thing that we didn't touch on is also the relationship that you have with Indigenous people. How does AWA works with that community?
Yeah, so we obviously we're on treaty lands, and depending on different people's perspective, it's their lands, and we've come in and taken it, whatever. Anyway, so I grew up in Edmonton, and every weekend we would drive down to the Kananaskis and drove through Morley, which is now Manithini. And when I was coaching and as an athlete, I always wanted to find a way to do something to work with that community. It just really interested me. And so one of the first things I did when I started in this role was reach out to Spirit North, because they have really good relationships with the community in Nakota, and see what we could do. And so we started pretty small. We just we worked with Spirit North and trained up some of their leaders, many of whom were from the Nakota Nation, and as well as a couple other First Nations around Alberta. And so we started there, worked with them, and then last year we had an opportunity for a bigger grant from the federal government through Canoe Kayak Canada. And so we were able to buy a whole bunch of equipment for Spirit North and out at Nakota Lake, and then also for the Cold Lake First Nation. We bought a trailer and equipment for them up in Cold Lake. And so then we're able to start running some kayak and stand-up paddleboard programs. And then what was really cool was we were able to have a couple of athletes, or 3 athletes and a coach from Cold Lake come and join us for Alberta Summer Games down at Okotoks. And it was just a fantastic opportunity to work with these kids, particularly the coach was just so good at working with everybody, and it's just been, I don't know, it's been really good to feel like we can help support their programs on. And again, like the big thing is I didn't want to feel like we were coming in and teaching how it needed to be done. I wanted to bring in their leaders so that they can be the ones that are teaching it, teaching the paddling, and see.
Yeah, it's very interesting to do that, especially with that community. And like you said, it's like the approach is very different. And do you see maybe a future where we can maybe mix both, like First Nation and First Nations community with kayak, like trying to regroup them with kayak and trying to maybe I know that here in Ontario we have in Owen Sound, in this little town, we have like a friendship building where their goal is basically to introduce the non-First Nations to the First Nations culture and trying to open that door a little bit more in a respectful way. Is there maybe a future for that with
Yeah, I
AWA?
would say, like, I wouldn't say I have an end goal that I'm trying to get to. But I think that by giving them the opportunity to enjoy our sport, well, the sport, is cool. And then if we can also, bring that awareness of the past cultures into our community,
Yeah.
then I think that's fantastic. There's no reason, all these rivers need to have um, anglicized names and whatnot. I think there's a lot of different opportunities where we can, listen to their teachings and learn more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so yeah, like very it's yeah, like it's very very interesting work that you have, because you have so many aspects of it, in between the competition to introducing to the sport to that aspect of the community, trying to get people around the river, getting respect on the river, understanding how rivers works. You also have like an action on the eco-friendly and the warming, like the global warm up that is happening. So like it's an all-in-one thing that you have with AWA. Um, Maybe that's just a question like of like, so you, because you were an athlete, you were a coach, and then you got into AWA. That was your way. But is there a way, for example, for me to volunteer my time, or how can I get involved with AWA if I'm in your region?
Yeah, so if you want to be an athlete, or not an athlete, but a participant, certainly joining the clubs is the best way. We've got 20 clubs. Each of them is running programs. They're running little events, and then on the that next step up, we have 3 discipline organizations. So we've got Alberta Slalom Canoe Kayak, we have Alberta Canoe Polo Association, and Alberta Playboaters League. And so, I think if you're interested in volunteering, we've got events that people can help out with, and various fundraising kind of things. And just get involved, get in a boat. You don't have to go on a crazy river. It's totally fine to go on the lake and stand up paddleboard, or or go use a pack raft, or whatever mode you want.
Okay. That's cool. And so maybe just a little bit of like your communication aspect. How do you communicate on AWA? Where can we find you, and what kind of content can I find on social media, website, YouTube, etc., etc.? If you know a little bit about it.
Yeah. So albertawhitewater.ca is our website. And so the link to all the clubs are there, to a bunch of our commercial members. And so that's that side. And then on Facebook and Instagram, I think we're Alberta Whitewater, just at Alberta Whitewater. And so we try and share different things that the clubs are doing, different things that some of our partners are doing. different things that our members are doing. So if you're on Instagram, for instance, you'll find a bunch of people that are still paddling at this time of year in the snow. And so that's always fun to share. But then we've also got all the, pool sessions that are happening, and there's a list of those pool sessions on our website. And then there'll be a list of all the festivals and events that are happening around Alberta next year. 2024, we've got the national championships that'll be mostly out at the Kananaskis, maybe a little bit at Harvey Passage. And as well as all our kind of, provincial level races. We've got usually 4 or 5 different competitions on the whitewater side, as well as through the winter, there's another 4 or 5 polo competitions. So.
And pretty big events?
Big events and just busy, right? There's something every weekend pretty much, or very close to it. And if there isn't a competition, there's a festival, or a club's got canoe meadows, the campground booked out, or it's busy.
And in terms of like all of those competition and events, do you have any videos, or is it covered maybe by Roger, or maybe some TV or some stuff that we can watch somewhere?
So Rogers, they don't do as much community stuff as they used to, but yeah, there is one event on YouTube from Rogers from a few years ago, I think, in a race. Otherwise, there's lots of small content from events and whatnot, but full events not as often. Problem at the Kananaskis, at least, is we don't have cell coverage, so getting data out is tricky.
Yeah. Maybe you have like some downtown Calgary filmmaker like will grab some cameras and do something. That would be nice. Okay. Well, I think we covered pretty much everything of what you did in the past, what you do right now, what is AWA doing, and what's your purpose with that association. Do you have maybe something else that you want to add?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we're just trying to bring exceptional whitewater experiences to everybody, and have more people try the sport. We're in terms of like sports, we're number 4 in Alberta for participation. So the households, 26% of households have tried canoe kayaking of some format, which is 4th only to swimming, cycling, and golf of the like competitive sports.
Hockey is not here?
It's like way down in terms of how many people actually do it. It's as a sport, it's certainly more, but as a recreational activity, paddle sports is much higher. So it's quite interesting. And it's also one of the top 3 sports that people want to try. So obviously we need to do a better job of providing those opportunities if there's that many people that still want to try it. But
good numbers.
We love our rivers, we love our water here in Alberta, even if it's
cool.
dry.
And we need to protect them so we can enjoy them in the future, in the coming future. That's cool. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank you very much for being a part of that podcast. I hope that you like everyone enjoyed to know a little bit more about you and about AWA. And all the different links, I'm going to drop all the different links to their website and different resources, so you can go check them out. And that was really, really cool. Thank you very much.
All right, have a great day.
You too.